Hello everyone, back again with some more thrift store finds. As you can see, I'm sitting on the couch. Just a hint for some of my videos, which a couple people have noticed lately. When we had these crazy, insane, massive pickups from thrift stores, you'll typically see me start the video on the floor because it's easier to grab stuff. But still a really good morning out. Wasn't out that long, had to run a bunch of errands, including something for a surprise later this month. But for now, this might be the only time I go out this week to thrift stores. We'll have to see. Might have a lot going on this weekend. But luckily, going out one time, it was successful. A handful of books and a lot of DVDs, as has been happening just about every time we go out. DVDs and Blu-rays, out the wazoo. And a couple other things here, but a small book find. We did find one more of these box sets of the Dear America books. And when you find a bunch of these or box set in good shape, they do sell pretty quickly. And in the bargain room, when you find them, it's almost nothing. They actually only charged me for one book for that, and it's a paperback, so it was like 25 cents. Don't know what happened there, but it was great. We also have a hardcover Judy Blume Double Fudge, a hardcover Captain Underpants book collection, and a Spider-Man Far From Home Peter and Ned's Ultimate Travel Journal, also hardcover. So a little bit book-wise, but all for the store there. We did find one video game. Typically we do find a lot of just cases, empty cases for video games, usually pretty beat up, but occasionally you grab one and it's still in there. So we found for the DS Need for Speed Most Wanted. So that will be up on the store shortly. Give it a test out here first. 2 music CDs, Elton John Greatest Hits, and the Essential Billy Joel, which is a 2-disc collection. On to the DVDs, found a bunch of box sets, and then some individual titles. We're going to go through those first. We have When a Stranger Calls, unrated version of Cursed, the unrated Dodgeball, Grey's Anatomy Season 1, and I love this series. I have a couple, and I've seen a bunch more in this release line, the I Love the 80s collection, because a lot of them come with an additional material or frequently a music CD from the time period. A lot of times it's stuff from the movie, which is good, and this is no exception. From the I Love the 80s line, we have Jodie Foster in The Accused. And this is one that comes with the movie and then a music from the 80s music CD in there, which is just a great addition. This is my favorite pop culture decade, the 80s, so I love grabbing movies of this line here because of the music CDs. It's better than having just a plain DVD version. You get that little bit of an extra, which is great. We have Lips Like Sugar, Chains of Love, Need You Tonight, and Take On Me, which is one of the most iconic 80s songs. One that, if you grew up anywhere near that decade, you know that music video. And this is a similar line that I have not seen before. It's pretty cool. The Decades Collection, 1960s. This is West Side Story with Natalie Wood. And as it is a 2-disc release here, just like the 80s collection, a different series, but just like the 80s collection, the 60s collection has the movie, and then the 1960s music collection has California Dreamin', Mamas and the Papas. I love them. It's My Party, and Nana Hey Hey, Kissin' Goodbye, Wild Thing, Baby Love, I Can't Help Myself, The Girl. So, great collection of music also on there, and I love grabbing those because it's great to have a movie or a decade that comes with music from that time period. That's songs I probably would have wanted to purchase anyway, and I just get them with the DVD. Onto box sets, we have the Godfather DVD collection. That'll be up on the store there, along with the Planet of the Apes limited edition collection box set on DVD. This is another set that'll be up on the store. I have a similar collection already for us. And this I was happy to find because that means we're down to one box set to complete this series. We have Season 9, Volume 8 of Seinfeld. The final season of Seinfeld. The one thing that always annoys me about this line, you can buy them now and there are 2 different full series box sets, but these DVD collections, which now I'm just missing one. The one thing that always bugs me is that it's, season 9 very prominent on the front, but when you turn to the side, what's prominent is the volume number, and they're all in a straight line. So as you're looking on the shelf, your eye's automatically going to go to the volume number, all in a straight line across all the series, and the season number is sideways down here on the bottom. But your eye is going to be drawn to the big Seinfeld logo and the volume number all lined up. And because seasons 1 and 2 were shorter, they're put together on one set. So seasons 1 and 2 are volume 1. And so correspondingly, every single volume throughout the release of Seinfeld, the volume number is going to be 1 lower than the season. And so without thinking about it, half the time I'll go and I want to watch season 5, and I'll go and I'll accidentally grab the set for season 6, and I'll go and open it and about to grab the DVD, and I'll look like, wait, wrong season. It happens so frequently with Seinfeld, just because it's, if I watched Seinfeld every day, it probably wouldn't happen, but I'm watching the same thing every single day, so eventually, it happens just about every other time when I'll go through in Seinfeld and I'll grab the wrong one just because I'm thinking, season 5 or season 4 or whatever, and I'll grab that volume. Just one weird little side thing about Seinfeld that bugs me about that release line. So we're one away from finishing that, and this is a series that we are now finished with from what I grabbed today on DVD. And there are 2 seasons here. The first one that I found was season 5 of Full House. And Full House was one of those shows, there are a lot of these from the 90s that were not absolute favorites of mine or Amanda's. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is another great example. There's so many of those shows that we enjoyed, but we weren't, say, loyal viewers watching every single episode as it came out. It was more of, if you caught an episode or a rerun, you might end up watching it, or maybe it was on a show you're going to watch at 6:30, but you are sitting down watching TV at 6, maybe watch an episode of Full House that came on, or something along those lines, where over the years you probably saw like 50 or 60 episodes, but you weren't really a fan per se. There are a lot of those 90s shows where I just kind of wanted a season or 2 for the collection, because there's no way I'd ever want to go back and rewatch the whole thing. But nostalgically, from that time period, I'd love to keep a season or 2 to be able to go back and watch whenever I feel like it. And I've done that with so many series from, mostly it's the 90s and the 60s. Those are the 2 decades where I have a lot of shows like that where I like it and I want a season or 2 of them, but I don't necessarily need the whole thing, because I don't want to have things on the shelf I'm not going to watch. So this is one of those shows where I specifically did want season 5, and then I wanted one other season. Didn't really care what the other season was, because again, it's a show I watched sporadically on and off, but I kind of wanted an earlier season, so I did pick up, they also had season 2. So that finishes that show for us, because it meets my parameters of what I wanted for this show. In specific, an earlier season, so season 2, and then season 5. And the reason why I wanted season 5 is for a lot of these shows that I was making my list for the collection and collection goals and deciding what I wanted for these shows. I went through episode listings for some of these to kind of figure out, like, is there a specific season that I would really want, or do I just not care? And it depended on the show. Some of them it didn't really matter. Other ones, there's happened to be a season where some of the episodes that I remembered the most and probably saw most often happened to be from a certain season. That happened with a lot of different shows. There was a season of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that was like that, where I had to have that season, and then I wanted one other one, maybe season 1 or 2, and I was done. And other shows from that time period, the same thing. Full House, for some reason, I think I just must have, this calendar year, watched, during this season, whenever this came out, whatever year that was, I just must have seen more episodes than was typical, because I remembered most of the episodes from season 5, and it was just like I remembered maybe 1 out of every 10 or 2 out of every 10 at most from all the other seasons. So it was like I really wanted season 5, just because that's the one that I must have for some reason watched. Maybe it was on a different time of day, who knows. But so I really wanted that one, grabbed season 2, so we're done with that series. And this is such a weird find that is very exciting for me. It's actually something that I had on my list to get once I found out that it existed. Some people are going to think it's the stupidest thing. It really depends who you are, but I have a decent little collection of these that came out in the early 2000s that are just forgotten. I mean, most people seems like didn't even know they existed when they came out. The DVD adventure games. And these were games that were just on a regular DVD. You could play on any standard DVD player. You didn't need a game system or anything like that. They were just, basically usually multiple choice adventure games. It was, or sometimes they may be like point and click, something like Agatha Christie type stuff that you would have played really during the DOS and like in Windows 95 days, and then they seem to have made a resurgence on things like the DS. A lot of those, I have a decent collection of those, a lot of FMV games, that kind of stuff, you could play just on DVD. I think even Dragon's Lair might have been released on that form. A lot of these where it was very simplistic, you just use your remote and made choices, or menu navigations. It really didn't need a controller, it didn't need a console, they were on DVD. And there were a lot of these released, I want to say like 99 through around maybe 2004, 2005, maybe that late. I don't really know of any that late, but I think there might have been. All the ones that I have seem to be released from 2001 to 2003, like early 2003. The favorite one that I have is Xena. I'm looking for the other Xena release. There were two of them, and I have the one Xena one. It's great. It's horrible quality, but it's hilariously horrible. And this I'm hoping is going to be the same thing, because we have Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the action-adventure DVD game. And as you can see, it just says the remote control. You don't need any kind of game console or whatever. It is just, you make choices, and it's a fun adventure. There were a whole lot of these. There are a couple that even had an entire series where there might have been 6 or 7 volumes that you had to collect of these. And today, anyone who wasn't around from that time period or remembers, some point-and-click adventures and that kind of stuff, probably would think these are the stupidest, most boring things ever and a ridiculous idea. But these were a thing for a little while, and I think they're pretty cool because they are so, iconic of a certain time, and they are such an oddity that it was just bizarre that you could have an actual collection of video games just for your regular DVD player. Didn't need a console. And someday I'll have to, once I get a few more of these I'm looking for, I'll have to do a video on these, because these are pretty fascinating. Some are better than others. Some are actually some decent games, and there are a handful of ports of some PC games that made it onto these. So this is the Lara Croft one. I have to check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. And those are my pickups for today, and probably for the week. Thrift store shopping. Might not go back, but hey, great. And as you saw, last week was absolutely killer as well. So every time we go, there's plenty to list for the store, and we're just knocking things off the collection list left and right. So make sure you check back for a lot more content like this, because it just keeps happening. And as I said before, I have a lot more of those collection videos to do, and those are going to be coming out throughout the rest of the summer and maybe into September, as looking like, as more things are wrapping up.